Good afternoon, Director Sir, good afternoon, faculties, good afternoon to each one of you, the audience. My name is Bharulata. I'm going to talk about Bharulata Kamble. I'm from United Kingdom, currently based in Surat, Gujarat. I'm going to talk about my personal journey of exploration, the journey within and beyond. To start with, imagine a door, just a normal door, but everything on the other side is so terrifying. That was my life. Trained as a lawyer, this was a result of a massive road traffic accident that was broken me into pieces. I had a number of injuries, orthopedic injuries, and suffered severe post-traumatic stress disorder. 1,640 odd days, about 4.5 years. My horizon was my home, my driveway, or just within my street. It literally, I had to relearn to drive. I am an explorer, and I was an explorer before the accident. I have undertaken many expeditions and many explorations to Arctic, to Europe, to wherever, you name it. Non-stop 1,500 kilometers driving, that was insane, but I did it. But the accident brought my life to stand still, my professional life as well as personal life. It was a 55th session of my counseling. It took obviously orthopedic injury, got healed rather quicker, but the wound that within me was post-traumatic stress disorder. I never in my wildest dream thought I will ever get better or even go to court or anything like that. Counseling sessions, specialized counseling sessions were ongoing. It was 55th counseling session, and my therapist asked me, by the way, what were your dreams before the accident? And I said, there are far too many. Now, what's the point in talking about them? And she asked me, share one or two. And I said, what do I share? There's nothing now. I don't even remember most of them. I said, there must be something. And I said, you know what? I wanted to go to India. I lived in United Kingdom. I wanted to go to India by car. That was my dream. And she said, you can still do that again now. And I said, how do I do it now? That was a history. Now the reality is sitting in front of you, taking your treatment. Impossible. And she insisted that you can do that. And I didn't pay much attention because I thought it's impossible. But it's always me who came back home, thought about it. What was she saying? Why was she saying? And I usually write down all the positive, negative. I still do it. Anything that I'm concerned with or anything that I'm alarmed with, I would write down. So I wrote the pluses and minuses. What is it that making me so fearful of driving? What is it that making me don't want to go on the road? And after about 6 weeks of my internal battle, I came to conclusion that there was nothing. I lived in UK, I learned my driving in UK, I knew the roads, I have relatives, I have family. If there was anything, like before also, anybody would come and help me out. Why the fear? I said to myself, the fear, anxiety, depression, all that, I really realized that they were all within me. And if everything was within me and there was no external force as such, now possibility of me having another accident are rare. Like, it was several years when I passed my driving test to meeting an accident. Now, that possibility is rare. And by the way, it was not even my fault. The lorry driver hit me. He was on the phone. He didn't see my car and he hit me and dragged me along, and car got upside down a few times. Insane. I was pregnant at a time, 28 weeks pregnant. Obviously, a lot of trouble with her child. The baby was born premature. Probably seeing my child in NICU, that was probably the striking point. But then seeing my son standing nicely in front of me, I thought, but he survived. We had a bad patch, but he survived, I survived. Now what is the problem? And there was no problem. But I was still terrified. Standing near the car would make me shiver. I would sweat. Ultimately, my husband being a doctor, he was a great support. He said, okay, let's start getting in the car. I started off with a 20-second first time. Car not on, just sitting 20 minutes. Every day, my husband would stand there and I would practice. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, even increased every day. And 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then driving out of my driveway and then driving within our own street only, and so on. And obviously that gave me confidence. So I started driving myself to pick my children up from school, and so those were like daily chores. Going to the hospital all by myself, because I was still going through the counseling and all that. And then finally, one of those sessions, I said to the counselor, you know what you told me to fulfill my dream again, I want to do it. I want to go home all alone in my car. And I did it. 32 countries, all alone. In 57 days, 35,383 kilometers on clock. And I did it. That was after a major setback, like not getting out of house, to getting out of the house and coming all the way to India. 9 mountain ranges, 9 time zones, Arctic Circle, the desert, 3 major deserts, driving through over 5,500 kilometers through mountains, over 3,000, nearly 4,000 kilometers through various deserts, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and China, Gobi Desert and all that. And I did it. I was my own mechanic. I always had a passion for car, so I knew how to change the tires and do basic mechanic work. So in the remote places, I was fixing my own car. I was my own doctor. If anything was to happen, I would do first aid and everything to myself. All medication and everything was with me. My journey, in India, we have availability of servants and everything. You can hire a cook. That luxury is not available in the UK. So my expedition started before driving expedition actually started. My husband is a urologist. He can't cook. 2 children at home. One was 8 and one was 10. Now, how would he feed them? I'm going for two months. So I cooked for 2 months. Everything frozen, defroosted. So, 2 months before I set off, my expedition, my journey started with cooking. Putting everything in order for children so they are well fed, organize all their care. Husband reshuffle his surgical schedules so that he can be home earlier, so children can be picked up from childcare and all that. But best decision of my life, I think. I lived the life I always wanted to live. I explored not only the world, but myself. within me. It wasn't a tour, it wasn't a kind of a tourist or tour of countries, but it was a pilgrimage. I was talking to, it was conversation of me with myself to explore. Like the mountains, standing mountains, they don't tell you always to climb, but they represent that you can climb them. Barren deserts, they tell you that there can be oasis at the other end. So, for me, this was my journey from journey within me and beyond. And absolutely everything is possible if you decide to do so. Those anxiety, fear, depression was within me, and I had power to remove. Only I had the power to remove it all. Only I could be hero of my own life. And we have a heroes within ourselves. Sometimes we are fearful of small changes, but if we work at it, it is possible. Sometimes people fear of changing a job, but if you work at it, it is possible. It's learning new skills or traveling. I'm not suggesting that people get in the car and travel other side of the world. That was my passion and I did it. But there is a possibility of exploration, the journey, taking that journey within ourselves. And when we take such journeys, we not only create our own world, we inspire others, we motivate others to not do exactly the same, but similar, and to make a better place. This was my vehicle. That was me at the North Camp. Sir, you probably know how cold it is to get there. And this was the active base camp. These are the huts you hire and you just stay there and there is nobody. You just let yourself in. Obviously you book it in advance. So the key is hanging there. Because no people, so nobody steals anything. It's very bizarre. You just get to the other end of the world, other side of the world, and nobody steals anything. The key is hanging there for like even a few days until you get there. And you are told that that number hut is yours. So this is one of my hut, was 7 number. It was that one in the middle. I said, I don't want to stay all outside, just put me in the middle somewhere. So that one in the middle, like third one in the middle. This how the car was. You have to drive within those sticks. Otherwise, you could end up in a valley, never to be found again, because they're so deep and covered in snow that you will never be found again. So you have to drive very careful. But having lived in the United Kingdom, I was used to driving in snow and all that, so it wasn't impossible. I took my normal car only, the car that I was using for to drop my children off and pick them up from school and so on, because nobody took me seriously to start with, that I could do it. Other than my husband and a few people, nobody believed I could do it. And somebody told me that this is madness. This is insane. And I said, to create a history, you need to be little insane. And today I stand before you all, not only having recovered, but first lady in the world to have multiple solo driving expeditions. Having suffered a severe post-traumatic stress disorder and overcoming all those difficulties, and when I arrived in India, because I was doing something for myself, something that I believed in. I never hired any PR team or nobody. It's only few friends who would navigate the journey, who would, if I'm lost somewhere, they'll tell me that this is where it is and that's how you go. Or we did, before setting off, we did entire journey through satellite. So I knew every bit of the road. where there would be petrol station, how far I would be driving, and so on. There were few incidents. It kind of opened your eyes to the humanity, the world, beautiful world. I mean, one family I met in Kyrgyzstan, very poor, and they insisted they couldn't even speak my language, or I couldn't speak their language. But they insisted in me having a meal with them. Obviously, I didn't do it because I normally don't eat at strangers' place. That's sort of one rule of safety. But those sort of things. One time, my suspension broke, and one mechanic in China fixed my suspension for free just to shake my hand because I was from India. So people love Indians. When I was crossing from Latvia border into Russia, because Belarus border was very notorious, and ultimately I couldn't cross from Belarus border. So Latvia into Russia, because I was Indian, even though I'm a British by citizenship, but a very proud British Indian. We always, our generation British Indian, we call ourselves British Indian. And so I had an India flag on the top of my t-shirt and a British bit bottom because India is my motherland. And that will always be. So, seeing my vehicle with India map and all that, they said, "Madam, you sit in the office." And I said, "Why am I special?" "Oh, because you're Indian. We love Indians." So, those sort of incidents are far too many. People helping me out middle of nowhere if I was stuck. There was, instead of diesel, somebody put a petrol in my vehicle and the vehicle had to be towed and the person brought his van absolutely free. I said you must take some money because you did all this in Russia. And he says, "No, I don't want money. You are doing something amazing." And those sort of compliments were just endless. I could go on and on for a few hours, and the typical lawyer, I can talk non-stop. But I better end within time. And thank you all so much. Thank you TEDxIITRopar for inviting me. And thank you TEDx for giving me this platform. Thank you.